So we are Marlon, you're having a hard time breathing.
Can you hear us, Marlon?
Yes, I can.
Who's got the volume? Me?
I can hear you.
It's probably trying to run it through the US or the HDMI. Yeah.
I've been talking to him, he heard me.
Can you hear us, Marlon?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can't hear me. Turn your mic on.
He's talking, it's just not coming through.
Yeah, I can't.
He gave a thumbs up, so he can hear us.
Okay. We'll just need to hear him if he needs to vote.
To type in the chat, and you want our attention, because we can't hear you. Just so they know you.
I already did.
So Marlon, you might have to type things in the chat because we can't hear you if you wanted to say something.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we can call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda. Is it approve the minutes? Okay,
November 1st and November 26th.
Okay.
I move that we approve the minutes for November 1st.
Thank you.
And
All in favor?
I was doing one at a time. You want me to go then? However you want.
Any objections? Let's pass.
okay. What's next on the agenda?
That we do the minutes for the 27th.
Oh, did you vote?
We did.
No.
However you want to do it.
Second. All in favor of that?
Right.
Opposed?
Okay. What's the next agenda item? I don't have it in front of me.
Project updates.
Project updates. Well, this last week, we met with our consultant who is doing the impact fees. And also, so I will be getting with them over the next few weeks to look at the project list. I know that was one of the concerns you guys had with the transportation master plan was which projects were completed, which ones weren't. I've been coordinating with Taylor, so we will get the updated projects for the TMP to you guys. We will also be taking among having all this happening too, we being staff, looking to engage the city council in going through the warrant process, how we go about finding out when an intersection warrants for a four-way stop, for a signal, for widening and things like that. With the political climate changing a little bit, we're kind of looking to shift gears, and instead of have a special city council work session meeting, we will look to take the TMP to a couple different commissions. We'll take it to the Public Works Advisory Commission, the PWAC, as well as then go to the Public Safety Commission. I don't know what it is specifically for police, but in both of those instances, we'll be bringing myself and John Dorney will come to those meetings and present on the transportation master plan and let them ask questions. Part of the reasoning is a few of the council members that seem to have the most questions about whether or not we can just put a stop sign here, just add a crosswalk there. Those two council members individually are on each one of those commissions. So we're thinking it's probably a good idea to go there in front of another group of citizens and go through our master plan and have comments and questions, because both of them do deal with public works being streets and whatnot, as well as public safety as far as the speed component, traffic calming and things like that. So we're looking to take that to those two commissions and then proceed then with taking it likely to planning commission for final approval, as well as and then we'll move to city council, whether we do another work session and then a meeting, a public hearing for the approval of it, but that's kind of the process. Tomorrow night, John and I will also be presenting in the planning commission pre-meeting, similar to what we did for city council for the Transportation Advisory Commission or for the Planning Commission. So if you guys want to be there, we're going to talk about the TMP just in Planning Commission because it's got to go through those processes. So if you guys could be there at 3:30, I believe is when the pre-meeting starts. Is that right, Cheryl?
3:30, yes.
You guys are welcome to come. Not totally understand, but it'd be the same presentation we gave the city council. With the thought too, that we will have a finalized cover letter draft. And has that been fully endorsed? You guys have signed?
I've
Are
got
we-
everybody's name on it. And then if you need to, things have changed, which I could do. later.
Okay.
They were,
I'm not substantive. Quick question. Are you saying that 2 members of the city council want more latitude to like put a stop sign here or a speed bump there versus having, a list of requirements that to be met before those happen with your warrant process?
Yeah, what we were looking to do is, we didn't know which way to go. We could either, as staff, put together a special meeting, essentially going through the process of, hey, this is how stop signs get put in. There's a process. It's not just a function of someone's telling me they'd like to have a stop sign. Can you guys put one in? There's actually a process. So it was either we have that special meeting, or maybe it would be better to have that in these commission meetings where it's usually a smaller group. Maybe people are a little more apt to ask questions and we can actually do a little bit more, engagement and teaching and learning. So the thought is, because the 2 members that happen to ask us the most questions are in there, and that might be a better environment for that.
Okay, so you're saying.
I think the latest is that there's some people that think that we do it because we want to. And there's an engineering basis and process for each traffic control device
Of course.
that we put in, right? And that's,
Need.
so how to address that, I think most effectively.
Yeah.
Is.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we're planning to do.
Sounds very strategic.
Well, I
In
mean,
a positive.
yeah, yeah.
Good strategy.
Because I'd rather, I have no problem sitting down and meeting with them individually. It's just harder for them to do, but these are scheduled meetings. Yeah, and because I feel like, I guess speaking to, I had a chance to go to the school community council in Northridge, and I thought that was a very good meeting. It was pretty productive. I went in there very apprehensive. I didn't know what to expect. But it wasn't like that at all. It was a very good conversation. So I'm hoping that it would be similar with these other commissions with those.
Well, what's to listen to understand that?
Well, you can teach.
Well, and I think there was a little bit of a realization that not maybe everyone is on the same page. And when you're in a room and you realize that, wow, maybe I'm the one who's a little outspoken here, not understanding when everyone else is, maybe that gets them to come around and listen and understand, and then realize that, hey, we can't just do this because that there's reasoning and these other things, such as, what types of risk are we opening ourselves up to? So that's the thought for the transportation master plan. There are a few things that we were going to add. There are some intersection improvements that I'm going to add on at a macro level. Recently I was down doing some business at Bonneville Industrial Supply, and they just mentioned how they have serious concerns, how they can't access Center Street, try and make a left turn off of Center Street. They're at about 1500 West. I don't know if you guys know about them. So what I've done is I've instructed Horrocks to add the icon there for our maps. It just says intersection improvement. Whether we can't do anything, we put a median or we put a signal and we tie it up, but it just allows us, it gives us that opportunity to say, hey, this needs some micro evaluation, because it's not just there because they really can't go south down Mountain Way Drive and access 4 South, because it's similar. You have the similar type scenario, and there really is an opportunity for us as a city to possibly purchase some property, because there's a vacant lot where we could line up some roads and maybe put a signal there. And maybe those are the ways that we look at, that's how we prioritize signals. If there's, property, it's going to affect this need, these are the levels of service, blah, 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 then that's our next project. So there was that. I would think that there's probably going to be some additional philosophies that are going to be expressed in the TMP. I think what we've done is a great start, where you guys talked about congestion and levels of service. And speaking to one of the council members, they wanted to eliminate a few projects. I don't know if maybe this happened in between our conversations, but in speaking with them, I just said, that's not the route I really would like to go. I really don't want to make projects political. Let's look at our approach. Let's look at how we deal with levels. I think I may have spoke to this at the community council maybe, but it was, let's look at lowering our level of service and admitting that we want to be in congestion, and maybe some of those projects that may not be desirous because they're in our backyard will fall out naturally. Because we shouldn't say, I don't want this project because it directly impacts me, but the one down there that I use and would really like, it needs to happen. That's not really what we want this document to be. So I would think there's going to be some momentum, and those changes could be in there.
Can I just say about that meeting that Sam came to about the elementary school and kids go to? So the school community council through me invited Sam to come and talk about what she does. And what I appreciated the most, and I think you're really good at, and I see this happening, like you're talking about meetings or committees, is explaining, like the school was like, we don't feel safe here. We want you to do something about it. And Sam was like, well, yes, we should address that, but also let's not just address it for your school, let's think systematically, right? Let's
Yeah.
think about, is this something we need to be writing into, like, do all elementary schools need wider sidewalks here? They're on their walking path. Do we need to start doing something? So it's not just pick and choose projects, but what are the systems in place to meet the needs? I really appreciated that. And it sounds like you're talking that way again.
Yeah.
In terms of-
Yeah, because it would make my life way harder to do it that way. My gosh, because then if I do it for them, then I do something better here, then I got to go back and do it better there.
It's there, you can't do that.
Right.
Have standards that you follow, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with the master plan. So I guess once we get your endorsement with that letter, then we'll kind of see where it goes. There could be more corrections being made to there. Maybe some of those things that you guys express, they'll want actually in the body of that document too. So, and that might be something where maybe this is an update. We don't do it now, knowing that going forward that we will do a full blown, because that's what will probably be if that's the case, it probably would really mean that, well, then we really need to tear it down and rebuild it, which we all know we want to do. I just don't know if now is the time if they want to do that. Because I know the impact fee wise, we're wanting to renew those. It's probably a year or two earlier than we want, but we're just wanting to make sure that because the impact fees are based off of the needs of the city, the projects, but those projects then are based off of current construction dollars, current property prices, if you have to procure property to build parks, intersections, whatever. And then you come up with these fees. And as you collect the fees, then you do these projects. I think there was a little bit of nervousness that, are we collecting enough of a fee? Because property has gone up, construction costs have gone up. We're anticipating to be able to put a signal in for $300,000 when really they're $500,000. Can we afford those? So that's part of the process that we're going through for impact fees as well.
Text. Please, saying they finalize the letter.
Oh, we need to make a motion to finalize it.
Yeah. That's what it's just.
So are you making a motion then, Marlon?
Sure.
Yes,
I'll second the
He has
motion.
made it. Okay,
so second.
so you seconded it, Laura? Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody in favor of taking it as is?
Yeah,
Anybody strong feelings otherwise? Any feelings otherwise? Okay. So do you want to all sign it?
And she
Or
just
just leave it as our names?
We were asking, do we need to sign it or just have our
I
names
just think it's
there?
our names there, right?
My signature, you can't,
Yeah,
pretty meaningful.
it's fun like that, right?
Sam, are you suggesting that after these meetings, that feedback from these committees might have information to add also to it? Is that what you were suggesting?
There might be something. I mean, obviously, when I bring that to the council, they might want to add some other language. I mean, you guys have your cover letter, but maybe they'll say, you know what, I think that's a good thing.
Add it
You-
to the actual.
Yeah, the
document.
body of it, where right now we have a level of service D. Maybe they want to update it now to a level of service E. You know what I mean? There might be those things that we want to add to it. So,
I mean, I don't know that we need to open this can of worms, but from. I don't recall how much we said from our budget we were spending on either safety measures in terms of. Traffic calming measures or active transportation. But I would
active
like to see that
transportation, I
go.
believe, is set at 10%. Is where it's at right now.
Isn't that mostly UDOT though?
No,
We're
if
talking about-
no, active transportation could be, it would be any sort of improvement. It could be buffered bike lanes. It could be if there's a need for bike lanes, if there's a need for crosswalks, if there's a need for bulb outs, it's anything. And if those items in that corridor are needed and it's up to 10%, then we should be doing that.
Basically anything. Other.
And that happens when we're doing that's when we're doing our resurfacing projects. So it would be anything above and beyond. For the most part, right now, it's just striping to add the bike facilities. But if we want to be more aggressive, you want to add different things, that's where the cost comes in. So I know in the parks plan, they wanted 20. And I said, well, ours is 10, and I don't know if anyone realizes that. So I think there should be some discussion, and they just brought it back to 10. So, I mean, there could be something where we, I'm trying to think here. We probably should think of examples of how that works. And because if they ask that, what would that mean? So I
There's
should,
a lot of projects where none of it gets used, right? You just repave and restripe it, and there's no active transportation changes.
right. I mean, right now, the simple thing is yeah, we're putting in striping. But if it's a bike lane and we're supposed to have it when we don't have the right of way, I think in theory, we should be,
You can't do that.
yeah, well, as long as it doesn't exceed 10% or 20% of the overall project.
Well, I'm just saying, if you don't have the width to put it in.
Yeah.
You can't just stripe it because you want it.
Right,
Make an 8-foot lane, you can't do that.
right, right.
And are there emergency or special needs? The accident down on your favorite intersection, 4th and 4th. Was that child okay?
It's my daughter.
It was your daughter?
Hey,
I've been
What
patiently
happened?
waiting to talk about
I
it.
didn't read about
She got hit by a car.
it.
oh, 4th and 4th.
And she's probably only alive because Cindy, the cross guard, pushed her out of the way and essentially sacrificed herself.
Oh, how soon did it?
I don't know if you heard Sam, last I heard, she had a head injury and a broken clavicle.
Yeah, I heard she had a brain bleed and a clavicle.
Last I heard, she was still in the hospital.
But see, things
So
like-
she is still in the hospital.
As of a couple days ago, at least.
How's your daughter?
She's okay.
But things like that, you know, we have it on the the back burner. We know it's gonna come after they get the well drilled and you put the park in. It's on the docket, but sometimes it's just like, wait a minute. Can we wait that long?
Yeah.
Are there contingencies?
So I was on the news Friday. And that happened on a Wednesday. Tuesday, when I was meeting with Taylor, he had brought up, hey, I think we have enough equipment here in the yard. We can put up a temporary signal. I think we can put up some wood poles, span wire like you see in some small rural towns. That'll give us the flexibility to move some heads. And I think I can make this work. I think I can do it now. I said, okay, let's get your equipment out. Let's see what you have. Get an inventory. The big thing will be, how do we set a pole there next to Rocky Mountain Powers? If you can get power, whatever. Then this happens Wednesday. I really don't hear about it till Thursday. Happened to be meeting with all the folks that are involved with that from Public Works. And yeah, it's like Taylor, he's meeting with the signal guy right now, Pine Top, to see what they can do. He's going to talk to Rocky Mountain Power. I don't know how big of the foundation is for that large pole on the corner. And if we can set a pole there, if we need right of way on that southeast corner. But yeah, I think we can move forward and get most of the signal built in its permanent location, with some of it having to be temporary. So we're working through that
That'll give
actively.
people more things to look at, right? Like more signals, literally, but like something's happening here, don't just keep driving.
Yeah,
Maybe a sign, you know, it's on, I guess on Bangor. It tells you there's a stop or a red light ahead. I love those.
yeah, we probably won't have that there. I mean, what we'll have is we'll have some VMS signs that will be new signal pattern ahead, beware, but once it's in, you don't really have the speeds and the sight distance issues to have that flashing sign, I wouldn't think, right there.
The, I drove that intersection. This is what I'm talking about the active transportation budget. If we're gonna redo that, the light in that intersection, and maybe it needs it. There is some argument to be made that lights actually help drivers and cars feel more entitled to the space, because then they can zoom through. So, I mean, we can obviously have that discussion, but I was driving it with my husband and he was driving it, and I said, do you feel like, how fast could you go on this street? And he's like, oh, much faster than I'm driving. Because it's a long, wide street,
Mhm.
and it's straight for a long time. Right, and I looked over and I said, do you see that there's a bike lane? He's like, a little bit. So even if it was something like painting that bike lane green. you're
That's
alerting-
actually
you're
what-
alerting drivers that
Yeah.
there's something else on this street, and maybe you should be going a little slower.
So through the intersection, we do plan on putting green there. Core South is our most heavily used bicycling corridor. So through the intersection, we are making the green paint so folks know, hey, this is where cyclists can be, as well as cars know where the cyclists are going to be too. So continuing that east and west, I mean, yeah, that's obviously an option. Yeah.
I just don't think that only, I'm not saying we shouldn't put in the light, I'm just saying only saying we should put in a four-way stop sign, only saying we should put in the light isn't gonna be enough to let drivers know they're not the only ones in the street.
Mhm.
So,
So that's why I think we should have more in the budget. When we make those improvements, that we can also use some of that money, not just to put in the light, but also to do the other things as well, which fit under that active transportation thing, but really are just about trying to signal to drivers, hey, you gotta slow down because you're not the only one here.
Mhm.
I noticed, I was watching that. About 3 years ago, very often, from north to south, from Florida to west. And it was right after the striping had occurred. You put in new bike striping, bike lane. And so I was watching it. And it drove me crazy because most of the cars in front of me were driving on the bike lane. And when you do that a few times, then it gets dimmer and can you put a sign at the beginning of it at the intersection that says bike lane? Or something like that. I've seen them
Or you
elsewhere.
paint it bright green, or you decide that that's a place where you need a buffered bike lane, so that really cars
Yeah,
can't go.
All right, I mean, if it's our number one use, why don't we put candlesticks up? And delineate it from the lane?
On 4 South, she's talking 4th West, right?
oh, yeah, that's the one where, but it's, it's the same, it goes through that intersection. What's the
Yeah.
candlestick?
That's the vertical panel.
The things that people like to hit, to kind of, they're not.
Oh.
We have those, they're safe hit, they can be hit.
And there's somewhere, those every road. It was effective.
You just put them at the beginning,
No, you put them all the way down. Acceleration.
It protects you, doesn't let you pull into that.
Was it just a standard bike lane? Do they buffer it or?
Whole city had them everywhere, everybody.
Yeah, let me,
It might be California.
yeah, if you can
I mean,
let,
the problem is you have parking, on-street parking, which is.
You can't
which
cross,
is a problem.
you can't legally cross. I was driving someplace that had those. I think probably 2/3 of them have been smashed. Because people, you know, I want to go there, so they will go there no matter what.
But if your road's big enough, you could put your on-street parking closer to the road and then on-street parking.
And you gotta start widening.
right?
Oh, that's interesting.
So cities are doing, a lot of places are doing that now, where on street parking, it goes, the lane where you drive, then on street parking, then the bike lane,
Hmm.
and then the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do it, and I just think if we're really serious about one, safety, and two, building the infrastructure that will help people feel safer so that they do use their feet more, or their bikes more, or their scooters or whatever, then that should be, we should budget for that, right? Budget is priorities.
Okay. I know it sounds like CJ, you had a comment?
I want to question, there's probably the bring up this location we're talking about. People now, I mean, it's
Yeah.
but I can see people who might have.
It was like driving it, I was like,
Driving a walk.
well, then go down this road, because I want to see where this goes, I want to see this infrastructure, I want to understand what it feels like to be here.
And when you're driving, I was driving north one day and I nearly got it. I don't know why I didn't drive it. Cause this guy didn't even put on his brakes. I'm right here and he just went, ooh, right in front of me. Didn't slow down. Cause fourth, if you don't know that Fourth South is supposed to stop there, they just fly through.
Yeah, what I don't like is we're widening this intersection. We're gonna drop this right turn lane down.
Uh-huh.
And what I don't like is I don't like this bike lane being here and all the parents queue up and they park right in the middle of it. And same, I mean, you have the bike lane here, so I'm all a proponent of doing green, I guess. And even, so there's a few things we're gonna have to figure out which is gonna be the priority and kind of attack.
Can you bring in, can we use more of that park, of that dirt area? Can we-
You really don't have an issue once you get past where it becomes more of a conflict is at the intersections where you have,
Mhm.
you're adding the multiple lanes. And that's why we'll widen this down and that, and
The Sharon people for the intersection.
yeah, so they'll,
So you're widening that,
so the,
widening the road.
in this direction, yeah. So what we're gonna do is,
Which is probably necessary, but just that's gonna make it harder for people to cross the street, right? That's more
mhm,
street time, more time the indoor in the street.
right. Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna make that ped crossing time longer. I mean, right now, we're looking to, this receiving lane will narrow up a little bit because the bike lane will continue straight down through here. It'll come straight across. I think we're looking to widen this a little bit and pull this out. I think that will pull this bike lane out. This all shifts down because we want this, because right now in an intersection in this world where we live in, cars are king, and we need this through lane to line up. This is going to slide down, causing for us to widen this down this way. This paint will come through. It'll continue through here. We'll bulb this out a little bit to obviously protect this parking and make sure that this bike lane is separate from the parking. This will likely be the only spot that will allow a little bit of queuing and parking, one for Mr. Warnick, and then two, some queuing in here to come in. But the rest of this, I think the plan is we want to keep this red curbed and not have cars parking in this area, at least on the north side. The south side will allow it along the park here, but not along this north side. And then the intent is right now for the green paint or the bike lane to be part of this right turn lane. So it allows the car to be right there. The bike will be sitting there, That's kind of the intent of how we're looking to design it right now.
Would you also green stripe the bike lane going north-south?
I believe we do have that for the intersection. I think we're treating all of this with green. Yeah, we're actually going to bring it over and show the green stripe in there and the green stripe here. I'd have to look at it again, but I think we are. I know the big focus was Fourth South was the bigger corridor. Fourth West, I'm sure, is getting used as well. But Fourth South, there seems to be a pretty big east-west movement through here. So. So that's kind of the thought there.
So when would this happen?
right now, we're just waiting to hear back some answers. I'm not sure what we have in stock. I know we have a cabinet. Most of the material. It was right now waiting to hear back what Rocky Mountain Power can or can't let us do in there right away. Actually, it's just an easement. So either we look
Is
to,
there a box, there's something from Rocky Mountain Power?
no, what we're concerned with is this big pole. Yeah,
Just strap it to it.
yeah. I don't know if they allow that. I think they used to,
It's
but
just zip ties.
no, I just weld it. I just weld it to it.
Well,
So
I have
yeah,
a couple of thoughts. I'm colossally frustrated that in this meeting, at least several times, I mentioned when construction starts, that's gonna be a disaster.
Mhm.
And there needs to be a plan in place, either between the city, the contractor, and the school, to facilitate the pickup of kids who are no longer being picked up on the curb. Not in a million years, but I think it'd be my daughter that got hit the day construction started.
Give us a day.
But I feel like I called it.
Yeah.
And the reason my daughter got hit is because she could no longer get picked up at the curb. You have an overloading of that intersection. I mean, it was bad before. But now you have everybody who's picking up on the curb coming and lining up on that street or going through that intersection. And then you have all the kids now, they sent out I guess, to be fair, the school sent out a plan at 10 a.m. the day before, telling us that it was gonna be closed, you couldn't park on 4 South anymore. But nothing about pickup and drop off in that plan. That plan was all about how to get walking kids to and from school, and it was all, let's go through this intersection. Which to me was absolutely asinine, that that's the plan. But nonetheless, that's what I'm mostly upset about. And if I'd known, I didn't read my email till 10 p.m. My wife and kid were already asleep, otherwise I would have made a plan with them to make sure it didn't have to cross 2 streets. And I don't like your plan that everybody can park on the south side of 4 South, so the south side of, 4 South, and have to cross that street. to get
no,
to
we're
the-
just allowing parking. I'm not,
I know, if you're gonna need it all on the north side, then where else do we park? I mean, I don't want kids crossing the street that don't have to cross the street. That's dumb. And we now have a plan where my daughter will never cross the street, anymore. She has to walk a little further, which is fine, as long as she's walking on the near side. But, the other thing I think is the school zone does not start until after the intersection. I think the school zone should start before and through that intersection, because that's the problem. That's where all the kids are going. I mean, you get a couple that cross the mid-block. It's not technically mid-block, but at 300 South, you got a crossing guard there, but this is the school zone. And it's not lit up as a school zone. Because.
so you want a school zone through the intersection
Intersection.
on 4th West and 4th
Yeah, they
South.
said that the flashing lights were flashing, no, they weren't. There is no flashing light for this intersection. Doesn't exist. It starts on the west side and it ends to the north. That needs to extend through on both of them. I also believe when you put in the signal, you should make sure you have protected only left turns during school drop off and pickup. Otherwise, what's the point? You still have cars that are trying, that was what my daughter got hit by a left turn. Because it's so focused on everything else that was going on, never saw
Those are the ones.
the one that was sitting right there in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
So if we don't fix that.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily something that happens in school zones. I think we probably should have that period.
Oh, I don't disagree. I've written 50 reports about 8-color obstructions and left turns. I get it. It's a thing, but I'm talking about exposure. Right? Your opportunity for problems is astronomically much greater with the amount of kids that you have during those times. And that's my concern is that the exposure during that 1 hour, 30 minutes, that's all I'm asking for. They get protected on left turns.
Could it even be that there's all red and just pedestrian crossing for that 30 minutes?
That,
There's not even any cars in that intersection for the 30, 45 minutes after school gets out.
But how are you gonna do that?
Kids get to cross.
Well, you just give them a dedicated pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
Right, so she hits the button and you get a dedicated, 10, 20, 30 seconds for crossing.
Okay, so it's not like you closed down
It's an all-
the intersection, so everybody.
No,
it's
it's gonna be all hard to red lights.
Okay,
I mean, I want to see something because if we signalize it, but we allow them to turn, we change nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you made it worse because now on the green, people are flying through there. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm conflicted because, I mean, there's a crossing guard there. I'm forever grateful she saved my daughter's life.
She's a
I am. She is. Right?
But she had to sacrifice.
But yeah, like she shouldn't get hit either, right?
Right.
And I don't know what that's, so that's one, like, there was a crossing guard there with a big old vest on at the side.
Yeah, it's-
How did you miss that? Yet he did. And I talked to the investigating officer, he said there's no drugs, no alcohol, no distraction they can find, he just missed it. And that's a reality, right? I mean, that's a reality, it happens, but I'm worried about the exposure. Right, the exposure is we have, I don't know, kids, well, now it's a lot. 100 kids, 50 kids, I don't know, going through there in a 30-minute period. I'd like to do something.
Is there any parking on the fourth south where they can just go around the corner instead of crossing? I don't know.
You know,
We mean so you can do it, yeah, so there's a million people now lined up, but they already have the kindergarten and whatever on east side.
Fourth West.
This stuff is no longer acceptable on the south side, nothing, can't do anything on the south side, which is where we used to go.
so there's no pickup.
There's no pickup or drop off on the south side, they were shut
Why is that?
because of the construction.
Right now, the current project that we have is, well, one, you wouldn't be able to have it once the tank gets going under construction. Right now, the contractor currently is relocating an irrigation line. And that line is going to come up all along this north side. I mean, in theory, he's not there yet. There could be some queuing, but the fact of the matter is at some point, he's going to be coming up through here and have to do work in the intersection.
Okay, but once the construction's over, or or is it forever gonna be painted red?
I think the thought is right now, similar to what we have now, is that we probably wouldn't have it. We might have it passed like it is here, but in this general area, we probably would not have any.
Is that baseball fields there, baseball diamond?
There's softball, yeah.
Why can't
Can you put the people in there, they pick their kids up in there somehow?
So that's one of the things they've suggested is that the people that are walking can now come through the park
Yeah.
and into the back.
Mhm.
And, but probably there's no space for them on that little road there
Okay.
on 6th West.
Why can't they pick them up on that fourth,
But the kids can't walk on this crosswalk, it's closed. It's like,
on the other side of school?
back where, yeah.
Northeast, you say the kindergartners.
So you're talking about 300 South or?
Yeah, on fourth
Yeah.
west,
Yeah, so that's fine. Like it's,
like that part.
yeah, there's a million people there. And so that's where my wife was gonna go to get her. Now they're doing it on 300 South. My wife goes into 300 South and she walks.
So he comes around.
And then into 300 South, so they shouldn't have to cross the street.
So these guys are on this third south, this cul-de-sac are getting the brunt of it during school pickup.
Well, that's where we're going now. I don't know what
Yeah.
everybody else is doing, but that's.
Well, you know,
But
after.
they convert much, people used to be on corner south and now on corner south and east. And so now now you're trusted, but then you have everybody else. Going up on 4th West, now they're piling up 4th West, and so you have more traffic going through that intersection. That's the point, so you have more traffic, it's worse, more kids, it's worse, and they didn't do anything to fix it.
When you say there's gonna be parking on the south side, or there could be queuing on the south side, wait a second, south side.
No, I'm not proposing that with queue.
But it's not red curve or anything. Like, I could see parents parking there and kids like running across.
I can't-
You're thinking of that to use the
I
park.
mean,
Yeah,
They can park there to go in and use the park.
I mean, the parks, I mean, that's the thing is there's gonna be, I guess, essentially it's gonna be wider there. If we want to narrow it, I mean, the problem is it's, I'm trying to solve the school's issue.
yeah.
They don't bus anymore, right? So all of the parents have to bring their kids there. It's the weather, whatnot, but I mean, it's really kind of a crappy thing, because if this was a typical brand new development that came in that had this many trips, we would not allow this in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But we're stuck with it. We're stuck with the fact that they chose to not bus anymore. We're stuck with whatever. So now we're trying to make the best of it. We got a big project we're trying to build. We're trying to make it safe for everyone, understanding that once this tank gets going, the sidewalk will be open. The sidewalk will have a barrier along it. And you're going to have one-way traffic going westbound. And then all the construction traffic will come in, circulate, and then come back out. That's the thought. And that's the reason why it's going to be closed down to one lane.
Where's the detour for northbound, or sorry, eastbound?
It'll likely be, as they come through, they'll be able to detour 6th West or 4th West.
South.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I understand it's going to be a pain.
Straight one issue. for me,
Yeah.
but That's like.
I mean, you're going to have a soft closure and then a hard closure, and it's going to be painful. But then after a while, everyone's going to go to 8 South, or they'll go to Center Street for the duration.
It's a mess. No, so
It's
I
not
want
jump
my kid
in.
on the street rather than there.
Really, yeah.
That's a disaster.
I mean, even in Northbridge, when I
Small
left,
house.
the crossing guard was parked in the red curb area too. I was like, how do I tell these folks that it's red curb for a reason, even if you are the crossing guard and you're parked in the worst spot right next to the exit where you can't see? And it's like, I mean, I was sitting there, I was like, you guys are worried about safety and your own crossing guard is violating it. Which when other cars see them in it, then they just stack up behind it. It's
Yeah.
kind of, I'm stuck because I can have a police officer go up there and then he's going to feel like, oh, this is great. I'm going to give tickets right before school, you know, and so I don't know. I mean, I think your points are well taken. I mean, this is, you guys remember Taylor from Public Works, our transportation operations engineer, and
Well,
Yeah.
could it be a special committee where people can come and give their ideas? I mean, you live there, you see it, you know better than anybody, maybe what would work. And help you as you're trying to solve this thing. The transportation advisor.
Something like that.
weird.
We don't have our children, you know. This is personal to him now, and he has been running ideas through his head. He knows what he thinks would work. And you have parents who've been doing the same thing. And it's amazing, once it becomes personal, how creative you become. I'm just saying, you know, a few more heads who, I mean, take your ideas if they don't work. But I don't know.
Well, that's kind of what you guys are for, truly. I mean, it's unfortunate that it happened to Jay's daughter. But the fact of the matter is that's why we try and get a diverse group. Hopefully you guys are connected to everyone in the city in some way, shape, or form. And hopefully you're not embarrassed to announce it in your social gatherings. Hey, this is what I do. Do you guys have comments? Do you have concerns? Do you think that maybe the city could be doing something a little better? And then you go ahead and bring it in. I mean, likely for us now, I mean, because if I were to even go and, I mean, how close are you to that signal, Jay?
How close to it?
Yeah.
Couple blocks.
So within 500 feet,
Yeah.
within 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, because as we do projects that are signalized projects, we could very well do it like we do with planning commission, and we could notice everyone within a certain perimeter. Hey, this is what we're planning on doing. Come here and give us your thoughts, your comments, and we can come with a concept, and maybe that's how we capture that. I have no problem doing that, but in the case if he happened to live further away, I would possibly miss out on that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I have no problem doing those things. But yeah, we understand that this is a mess. There's no doubt about it.
Well, Jay's idea of widening the school zone, is that possible? Is that something? Are we
That
back to
warrant
looking
process.
and shooting? Yeah, does it need to work, or can we say, well, this is really bad and it's the worst in the city, so it's different, or?
You know, that is dictated by the state, and I don't know if it's shalls and shoulds. Yeah, so if we might have that latitude to extend it, I can't see why not.
I don't even think the northbound one has an end to it, because you are supposed to put the signal and then an end,
Mhm.
and northbound does not have an end to it, so.
We don't have a sign up
There's
that's
no
saying,
sign that says.
so it was there and it's
I
gone.
always assume it's where the other sign is at, and so I go back and come back, but.
Yeah,
But technically that's a violation, you have to have the. and-
You're right.
But to answer your- I don't know. And I didn't review it in anticipation, what the requirements or if there's a certain distance, but.
see, and I would think with it going signalized, it makes more sense to have it approaching. So that way the people are stopped, just how it is on Center Street as well. Even though I think is the state law, Taylor, with the signalized intersection. Cause I want to say for a while, the one on Center Street was actually out of compliance. Is it in compliance now? Have they changed the law or is it still technically? So, I mean, that's the weird thing too. If you have a signalized intersection. I don't know what, I mean, but it doesn't mean that we can't. Obviously, we have it, precedence has been set. And maybe there's an argument as you're traveling north through it, that it actually makes more sense to have it. So you're approaching going through the intersection. At 20 miles an hour versus trying to beat the red light. I can't see why they would argue with that. Then it's just a matter of when do you drop it off. With the four-way stop, it probably didn't make sense to have it going through because
Yeah.
technically you're stopped and you should be slowing down. Yeah.
Just a little bit more legal teeth, right, for a little wider area.
Well, and I think too, it's just a matter of, okay, and that's the conversation of, okay, what's the exposure? Does it make sense? Are we comfortable with it? Then yeah, then we move it to the other side. We slow down
My
through it.
concern is how many kids have been hit mid-block, Warren South, mid-block, Warren West? None that I know of.
Yeah.
How many have been hit at the intersection?
Yeah.
2 in 2 months. I know of 3 wrecks that have happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's within the last little while.
Yeah.
Right, like. I don't care, I mean, I don't care what the MDT says at this point, right?
Right.
But that's our problem.
Yeah.
Right, and that's,
As you're driving west on 400 South,
Mhm.
what signs warn you that you have to stop ahead? Is there anything that says there's a stop sign up there?
No.
That's why they all run it. And they're doing 40 when they do
well,
it.
I think they run it because they don't. Because of what you said, it's a why, it feels like it should be at 35.
Mhm.
It just feels like, and everybody is 35, I don't know, have you done a speed study on Fort South, I bet you 35,
Oh, yeah,
right?
35.
So it feels like 35,
yeah,
and so people go 35.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of traffic calming, is I wanna make it feel like 25.
like it's a school zone. There's
Yeah.
something important up there.
So I think people are getting going, and the same thing for Fort West, it's wide, and it's beautiful, and it's straight. And
You're
it's-
just moving.
right, and you're going, right, and I bet you it's 35, it's probably a little less because there's a lot of stop signs on Fort West now,
Yeah.
but people just get going. And the expectation that there's gonna be a stop sign, they don't expect it.
I honestly, I love that house on the court, it is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah,
But I think that house being there, like, if you think about a lot of schools that are on a corner, you can see the whole school. You can see the corner's wide open,
uh-huh.
and that corner looks like there's no school there if you're coming from the east. And maybe that's what people see is that, the house, and they don't see the school at all go in that direction.
And they're looking at that pretty house, that's such a pretty house.
Yeah, and they always decorate really.
Oh, I love that.
What I want to know then is, when we're looking at this specific intersection, but also when we're looking at every other intersection that is going to come before us. What? I know that we don't need to throw every single solution at this intersection, but it definitely needs to be a combination of things. Right? Because just installing a traffic light with the flashing yellow left turn, as Jay said, is not gonna do anything for those kids. So what are we saying when we look at these things about what we're gonna do? Are we always gonna look at traffic calming measures? Are we gonna look at striping? Are we gonna look at the way that we sign for school zones? Are we gonna, is it all of these things are always on the table? And is there a way that we can go through them somewhat systematically to figure out what's the best combination of things for this intersection specifically, but also the other ones that the city's gonna be creating?
I mean, I think the short answer is yes. This intersection itself is probably the most complex one we have in the city. When I look at the amount of movements that are happening, the volume, the proximity to the school, the pedestrians, the amount of real estate I really have or I don't have to work with. This is going to have a lot of components that maybe other signals don't need, because there isn't the ped issue. There isn't the cycling issue. It's just going to be cars, lower volume. You don't need to have that. Yeah, this has a lot of moving parts to it that could be incorporated in other areas, because I mean, the days of, our transportation needs are evolving almost faster than what we're able to keep up with, and even to consider what is a standard, because there isn't a standard answer for, oh, if you're in this, then you need this, and this. I don't think that's available anymore. Now we got to think outside the box and think, okay, what is going to be the thing here? Because unfortunately, there's still going to be the opportunity for someone to run a red light. There's still going to be someone that's probably going to have a fatality. I don't like saying that, but I can't fix certain things, but I can do what I can to increase the compliance. And maybe it is the left turns. Maybe it is when that button's pushed, there's no left turn allowed and there's no right turn allowed. You know what I mean? And there's going to have to be some education. Does it make sense to have it for a little bit, to have a scramble type crosswalk where we go all red phase? Yes and no. I mean, as much as there are these issues to take into account, there's also vehicles that need to move through there too. And as long as everyone's on the same page and understands, I'm fine with doing whatever, but I think there's a big education component that we need to do here.
But I also think there needs to be an articulation of priorities, right? This is an intersection with a huge amount of traffic flow.
Sure.
And can we make it a pilot project? You know, if you call something a pilot project, then everybody doesn't think they get that. They understand this is kind of special. Pilot project, we're seeing what traffic calming measures and, you know, what will work in the school zone. And then we see how it works.
But I also think that, yes, and I also think that in this case, pedestrian safety should trump, traffic flow.
Because it,
I think there has to, right, there's a balance. Sometimes it's traffic flow takes precedence. And we never want it to be super unsafe, but you're right next to a school, an elementary school, no less. These are little people.
Yeah.
So if traffic flow has to take a hit and cars back up a little bit so that kids are safer at this particular intersection, I'm personally fine with that.
Right.
and that's why people need to understand it is a school zone. And he's right, they don't know what's a school zone.
There's just, it's a lot bigger than just here too. I mean, there is some unintended consequences if this does happen and we stop the world for these kids to cross. We all agree to that. We're probably going to have to do some corridor treatments too, because there's plenty of studies too that are out there. When you stop people, they got to make up their time. All of us probably feel that. So you're going to speed. So we have to, it's not just going to be an intersection solution. It's going to have to be kind of a holistic approach. So, yeah. CJ.
What's the catchment area of the school?
The boundary?
The kids probably come through every direction to that school.
I think probably yeah. This is elementary. So there's
He's
your,
a city employee, right?
what's that?
Crossing guard.
She is a part-time flex employee in public safety.
So if she covered our workers' comp or is this?
I don't know. I don't know. That would be, you'd have to ask, is it Lieutenant Paraskiba?
Yeah, his
They
insurance
fight
will
like
be paid, but
I would think there probably is. I don't know. I've never asked. I would think our own employees that are flex seasonal are under workman's comp if they're working, if she's being paid, yeah. But obviously the driver's insurance is probably gonna take most of it.
it depends on what kind of insurance he has. The woman who hit me had nothing.
Well, if there's limits.
25,000 doesn't go very far.
Yeah, so our insurance had to do the whole thing,
Yeah.
and she has nothing.
So that's the catchment area there, CJ.
Okay, so our fourth is.
Center to Eighth and State to 12th West.
Let me go back, just so you know, the end school zone is an optional sign, apparently you don't have to have it, but it does say that school zones are set by state law. So I don't know what Utah state law dictates. We can use for school, did they literally outline, here's a school zone, or they just say state law?
I think it's-
School zone based on your-
Very
It's,
specific.
I think it's dictated
So
by
they
where,
outline every single school zone in the state, or they give you parameters.
They give you parameters.
Yeah, like
per
you're
day.
crossing posted speed limits, because we had to do that on Vineyard. I think I was telling Laura that Vineyard Elementary on 4 South, they wanted to have a school zone. But it's posted 25. If you're posted 25 or less, you don't need a school zone. So in order to get the school zone, we had to post it at 30 or 35.
Well, these are
30.
all 25 and they're school zone.
Right. And then that's the thing I had to explain to him, that was probably something that happened previously. Now we have to abide by the posted speed limit.
But that is probably volume related as well. That's a factor.
Yeah. So anyways. No, this is a can of worms. I totally get it. Totally get it. And hearing that she got hit, I mean, that's the thing is, I don't know. Yeah, the only thing that could have helped if it was a signalized intersection is having it permissive and they had a red arrow and they couldn't turn left and allow that crossing. That's the only, even at that, if they're even paying attention to that, that's the hard thing that really sucks, is that these are all things that are imaginary in the road unless we actually have a button and bollards pop up and cars physically can't cross. I don't know what else to, I mean, really, that's the only thing that I could ensure it. Even then, someone might try.
Like I said, it's funny how I'm conflicted because I understand that from an engineering perspective of what I do for work. But as a parent and father, I say, I don't get, you know, like.
I completely get it.
You didn't make stuff. So it's,
Lost out.
yeah,
Let's do what
yeah,
makes
it
sense.
becomes very emotional. Trying to remain realistic about it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. No, we definitely got some homework to do on this intersection. And we want to make it safe. I don't want, everyone should be able to, travel through here, whether you're in vehicle or bike and you're walking, you should feel safe.
So when they put in that temporary one, will that be just red light, green light? How will they handle the left turns? Do you know?
What are we thinking we want to do, Taylor? Taylor's the man we're going to be working with this with Pine Top. I mean,
Around schools, what we've done, and this doesn't have to be what we've do in the future, but what we've done is we've tried to do flashing yellow arrows, but on the flashing yellow arrows,
No.
hey, let him finish. Let him finish. Let him finish.
we've given the crossing guard a key. And the key extends the walk time, so the crossing guard can get out in the middle of the road. And it delays the flashing yellow arrow.
So it's just green and then once they clear, it's flashing yellow.
Yeah,
Is that
but
kind of
no,
the
the
theory?
great part about that is you have to sit on a red. Well, through has a green,
It gives
and
them
you're
time to get
watching
out.
Wi-Fi red,
Exactly.
and you watch the crossing guard go out and you come out
That's
obstructed.
exactly why.
That's why, that's a smart idea.
And it's key controlled, so it only does that during times that the
Well, that's
crossing guards are there.
That's good.
That's where, the trouble is getting the crossing guards to use that. We gave the crossing guards, any crossing guard at a signal has that currently, and I don't think any of them are using them.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of frustrating on our end.
Nice
Okay,
for
sure.
training.
I think it'd be-
Yeah, that's too bad.
So.
Or it's an understanding. Maybe the fact of the matter is where this has happened, maybe they'd be more apt to realize, hey, you can help protect yourself
Yeah.
if you do this.
Yeah,
And these are the reasons why you want to do it.
especially.
You
since
guys have like a seasonal training for them, or are you sitting down?
Where do they learn that?
I honestly don't know, because it's all done through Paris, Lieutenant Paris Skiba, so, we've
Is that
given
public
him
safety?
a
Yeah.
huge bag of keys and explain to him, hey, you need to make sure.
Maybe a
that
big
you
tag on the key that says use me. How about that?
Save your life.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's,
That's frustrating that they don't even use it. That's a really good tool.
Well, I mean, it's just an assumption, but you can tell if the system is,
yeah,
operating.
I can see that in my system, because the way the signal will operate during that time is if it's in coordination, it will go free. So it's very.
This might be a good opportunity for public safety to go send somebody to each intersection while they're there, watch if they're using it, do a one-on-one with them. And now that this is fresh in everybody's mind, be like, look, this is why this is important to use. You know, this can save you and a kid.
Is it inconvenient? Do you have to walk a ways or something? Is that why they're not doing it?
Honestly, it's, most of them are sitting on next to the cabinet when they're doing their.
It's not far.
So it's,
no.
Far.
you can't walk, the key, it locks in, so if you leave the intersection. The crossing guard has to take the key with them for that to deactivate. But, yeah, it's. I don't think very many cities across Utah are doing that. There might be a handful.
Well, it sounds like a good system.
And we're trying to avoid left turns are the leading cause of fatalities of the movements, from my understanding. Because they're coming out at with speed and.
You know, they just reviewed a paper for TRB this year that, spoiler alert, in case you're going. They did a study on right turn signals and left turn signals. When a button's pushed, they will change the flashing yellow on the right turn, left turn to accommodate the pedestrian. And they're saying those are incredibly effective in the study I read, so.
Well, so this all happened. And then Friday, I'm riding out with my inspector. We're going out to look at the project. We have some irrigation issues there and some pipe clearances. And we're going up to the State Street and 4 South signal. And if you're in a through movement or a left turn, everyone understands you stop at the stop bar. You guys, this is that big bar before you actually get to the crosswalk, right? Unless you're turning right. If you're turning right, you guys stop where?
7 feet from the
Past.
nearest edge of lane.
Yeah, you stop in the middle of the crosswalk and you're doing this.
Yeah.
Well, he pulls up. Yeah, he pulls up into that. The light turns red. He's still looking. There's a pedestrian right here wanting to walk across. I'm like, John, he's like, what? I'm like, what are you doing? What? I'm looking for cars. I'm like, exactly. You got to stop at the stop bar. And then you got to look and then you proceed through. I said, this is what I've been having to deal with. I just got done talking to a community council about this. I mean, we have to be aware of these right turns. And I don't know if we go a step further and we put, if that button's pushed, we have blank out signs that all of a sudden light up and say, no right turn. And then it goes off. I don't know, but it's like, there's got to be some attention drawn to, even if it isn't a right turn signal, how do you still go up? Because everyone has this God-given right that if it's right on red after stop, and it's like, we got to figure out to kind of change that attitude, is we got to pull up, assess it, and then proceed. So anyways, yeah, to your point, and I'm seeing it. I see it as State, not so much State Street because it's the protected, but when you go to Orem Boulevard, everywhere we have the flashing, that's why we've talked about, we got to change that, because as soon as it goes flashing, the driver doesn't even look at the crosswalk. They're like, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm just looking for gaps.
Yeah.
So.
Now, when a pedestrian is in the crosswalk, don't you have to wait until they've cleared the crosswalk before you can turn into it?
That's the law.
Depends on the type of crosswalk.
Oh,
If it's a school crosswalk, no one can proceed until they've cleared the whole crosswalk.
if like, if it's a big intersection, like, what's the law then, when they get halfway?
Soon as they're out of your direction of
It's
travel.
halfway.
Out of your direction, okay.
Yeah,
that's
that's
good.
So it'd be halfway.
But this is striped as school crossing because of the zebra, right?
Yep.
So even though it's not a school zone, they've striped it as a school crossing. So technically you can't go until everybody's out, except only one direction though. The others are standard.
Yeah.
So the only one
This
is,
is a school crossing. but
well, only
it's
in one
not
direction.
used.
That's just marked in one direction is one.
Which is once you get hit, but. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
So technically, that one is the only one that you have to wait till they're all cleared on, which is dumb because
That's
cross
very dumb.
that one and north south as well.
It's not even a school zone.
Dangerous.
So when you restrike that.
Well, what the reason why is because we brought them down to here
Yeah, they're.
and here was the other one.
Supposed to
Oh,
cross, it never happens, they're always crossing that west lane, but.
You're supposed to cross them.
Well, this is where they had the other crossing guard. And this is where they would stop them to cross.
Because both directions.
Yeah,
She does,
And.
she probably
one
does all
should
four
shoot
corners.
really, you should have, this one should be abandoned
right. Yes.
and they should have two of them here.
Yes.
And then we have the other one here.
You have to get rid of the dumb one across. What? Nope, there's no point in that. The one, they have one down here, which is smart because the kids cross there and they have a crossing guard there.
Is there
You
a stop
don't
sign
in the
there?
middle. Yes, no, sorry, there's not. Not for Four South, but get rid of this mid block and move her over to, him or her over to the intersection.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I've seen 3 kids ever cross the mid block one.
Yeah,
And Four South is exactly.
yeah. But yeah, this is where they should. And I don't know if we need to have flashing signs, if that helps with the A pillar. I don't know if there's something even the crossing guards can have, because they are obviously in high vis. They're not glowing per se, kind of, but I don't know. Everyone ran out of words all at the same time.
You just look at it.
I just. I mean, we talk. We come up with some decent ideas, just like to see something.
No, agreed.
So the actions that are going to come out of this discussion are we going to look at the law to see if we can do a school zone through that intersection, move that further down? Are we going to do that? I propose we do.
I mean, it's funny because we have a school assembly sign there. We have it marked as a school crossing, yet it's not a school zone, like it just. Everything tells me it is. Yet we can't, for some reason, we can't. It's such.
I'm just trying to clarify, you know, we've been discussing different.
yeah.
We'll address
Could we make a list of our suggestions?
when we look, yeah, and I've made some things here. We have. Obviously, there was a comment about the 10 or 20% for active transportation. Cycling attention, green paint, safe hit bollards. On this specific intersection, we got school zone extending through intersection, scramble. There's obviously the right and left turn.
Yeah, the light. So it's going in. And we
Yeah.
have the system, the flashing yellow that the guard can turn off or control.
We also have the signal training. Maybe that's something we follow up with Paraskiva to find out if there's, do they need a refresher? Would it be help us to get involved and meet them on, or go out with them and just hit them all and show them this is why you want to do it and don't lose the key.
I don't know what kind of training they do give them, and they should give a lot. You know, fundamentally, don't turn your back to traffic. I think.
Yeah.
stands so that your peripheral sees all sides coming, things like that. Where to optimize your placement so that you're not in a pillar obstruction, right? I.e. move to the center of the street as opposed to in the traffic lane where we got hit. There's some fundamental training things that can optimize their own and children's safety. Including, I didn't even know those existed. That could change everything. I mean, it could be very effective, I see.
Perfect. Anything else for that intersection that we talked about?
Were we gonna talk about hitting the button and everything turns red for all directions?
That's what I call the scramble.
That's
yeah.
correct.
We'll look at the feasibility of that.
Okay.
I just don't want to have, I mean, we'll study it and look at it. I just want to be sensitive to the unintended consequence of
No,
speeding.
I think this is a better option.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Because you protect that left turn. You get them looking,
Give them more time.
you give them time, yeah, I mean, and you're accomplishing what we want to accomplish
And not
without having
impeding
to
that
hold up the through
whole
traffic.
intersection.
Okay.
I apologize, I wasn't being monopolized.
That's really important.
No, but the reality is I mean, it was a monopoly, but this is a concern. I mean, regardless if it was your child that was hit there, but I think that brought to surface a good conversation and the fact that there are other solutions, and let's see what they are. Make sure we're exploring them all, because when we signalize this, we want to get it right. We don't want to have to go back. We want to make sure we're doing it and doing it well.
And this will come up again somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have, then we'll have some.
I mean, there might be a signal at 12th North and 8th West, right by Bonneville Elementary. It's going to be a similar situation. And who knows, we could have other signals, other places.
Well, it's like the 16th north and 4th east, all high school kids, coming down on their scooters, those, they take those scooters through that intersection. No left turners, you don't even see them.
Yeah.
Every intersection has that potential.
So that's all I really have for project updates. There is a discussion that we've been having with MAG, looking at the 2050 plan for the area. Right now, they still have it on their plan that there's going to be a lake crossing connection they're kind of planning on probably this Pelican Point across over here to our 2000 South 2000 North area. They have that on there as a phase 3 project. Understanding too that we have about $5 billion worth of projects that we have identified on the regional transportation plan. And likely that's going to get cut because our MPO, Mountain Land Association of Governments, who takes the federal dollars and helps us with our transportation projects, they're the only one who assumed that we will be bonding for these projects. None of the other MPOs don't assume any bonding. So they're going to go back and take that component out of it. And then all these projects projects that were in phase 1 probably will be pushed to phase 2. Phase 2 will be pushed to phase 3. And phase 3 will be pushed off into an unfunded category. So this lake crossing is one of those they thought would be in phase 3, but likely will be a phase unfunded category because I think it itself was about $2 billion. So
You'll have to have a private entity.
Well, we were planning to just put them on the islands, right?
right, yeah,
Scratch
kind
that
of hop
line.
across.
Yeah.
But as far as transportation goes, it's some of the big items we've had going on.
They still, his favorite one, the 8 South overpass, taking them into the U of U, do they still have that on there?
Oh yeah, that's probably we'll start that next year.
You're actually gonna do it?
Just kidding. We're not. There still is, there probably likely will be some sort of a component. not just an 8th South overpass, but also Vineyard has contacted us about a 12th North overpass. I-15, when it was widened through here, it was actually lowered to accommodate if we were going to come over with an overpass there. The things that those do afford is it affords more of a grid networking connectivity. Understanding that it comes with a very high cost, but you will be taking some trips off of the main corridors. So understanding.
That's just an overpass, that's not an intersection.
No, it wouldn't be an interchange. No, 12th North and 8th South would just be overpasses. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, with something like that were to happen, that would be nice because maybe the traffic on 4th South would be reduced as well.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, those folks that come down into this, that they could have a back entrance into the commercial area, or even, yeah.
There any temple updates?
We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything. What's going on right now with the Geneva Road project, they're looking to widen this down five lanes and then build the intersection where our Lakeview Parkway would tie in. And then they would extend down here, and then their project would terminate by bringing the 2 lanes down here and into Geneva Road.
And so about years out?
Yeah. Trying to think if I have that. I might have that in here. I gotta leave this.
So when we prioritize our projects, they need to fit with UDOT and big projects like that, don't they? Just, so like we don't put a bike lane on a road that a year later they're gonna tear up and widen.
So this is what they're kind of looking at for, and north is over here to the right side of the page. But that's what they're looking at building is this, and then they would come down, and then we would continue this down through for our Lakeview Parkway. And this would be a future road that would eventually go out and connect into, there's kind of a stub road here down at Business Park Drive, and they would connect in. But that's kind of what the thought is now for Geneva Road.
What are they gonna do with that east side,
Here,
where the road exists now?
they would just leave it in this piece here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have an access here, come down and put a cul-de-sac on it
Oh,
and allow these folks to have access. We'd still maintain the utilities we have in here, our sewer and water. And they would look to bring some improvements down, water main through here and loop down. Sewer would probably come up into here. We have a lift station that's down in here.
So does the state own all that land?
No, nope,
It will.
no, they don't own it. But that's the thing is we're going through this plan, and if this gets approved, then they'll go out and start talking to these property owners and acquiring the right of way. So this is looking at like a 2024 construction date, because the temple I think they're thinking it's going to be mid to late summer, I believe, for their open house is what I'm thinking, is what we've kind of heard.
That's Saratoga Springs. It's
That one's-
next year, May, they're out there.
Oh, I think that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it might even be later. I don't know. They really haven't talked about the extent of damage from the arson.
So,
And there is a meeting about 16th North. You guys saw that. And UDOT's going to get in front of that. They'll just be finishing up their environmental study, talking about the alignment they have there, and just probably giving a timeline of when they think they'll have funding. I think right now they're planning on 2030 to construct that. Unless our lobbyists can kind of
yeah, points.
find some of the state legislators to find some money to build it sooner than later.
Is there federal money that,
This is all state money. This is,
The
we
state-
actually,
State
we,
can't go after federal money to.
sure, they can, if they wanted to.
It has to be a really competitive project.
Yeah,
Federal funding.
not a little one like this. They would, I mean, that's when you're looking at the big I-15 expansions and things like that.
Well, it's throwing in all that money, but maybe we just.
Yeah. Any other questions? Let's see if there's a, it's like there was a. Yeah,
Was this for fourth and fourth, is the suggestion?
you talking about 4th South and 4th West, Marlon, or where were you talking about the Ped Bridge? Yeah. It's not insane. It's something that we could look at. The difficulty here, just as it would be at 16th North and 4th East, is just the power. In both of these locations, we have the big transmission lines. So it's not to say that we couldn't come up and snake through it, but it would be a challenge. I don't know if we want kids that close to it. They might think it's fun to try and throw something at it.
I doubt you
They could
have a
get
warrant
attached.
for it.
Yeah.
Get a couple kids killed, but
Well, they had the one on 5th West in Provo and they demoed it. They took it out, the underpass for that school. That's on 5th
Oh.
West.
I think that became a dangerous spot, kind of a scary spot. Because it was a.
Yeah. I guess that was current projects and future projects, right? That was the 2 items on the agenda. Any other comments, questions? Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
get a motion to
And with the adjourn.
A second.
all in favor.
Marlon said he wants to stay.
He doesn't type fast enough, he's out.
Get better.
Look at him
He's
typing.
the only one with the recline. Well, get better, Harlan. Are you doing okay? You got oxygen on you.
Are you feeling better?
He's typing. here. Mostly better.
That's not good. I'm glad you're feeling better.
I can't read it, what does it say?
He'll have the O2 for a while. It's
Oh.
really effective.
Oh,
Did COVID or?
Yeah, that's what he said, he had COVID.
Attacks is in those tissues.
Oh, that's no good.
Did we adjourn?
get better.
See you, Marlon.
From that, oh, yeah, he's got scarring from COVID 2 years ago.